General Hugh, you've been in the job as the commander of U.S. Army Africa for about 8 months now. Has your perception changed since you first took the job?
My perceptions have changed, and my job is much more operational than I thought it would be. And I'm able to do more on the continent than I thought I could.
Has the addition of the 1st Infantry Division made a big difference for you?
What it does, it now provides me a trained and ready force that I can use to meet emergent requirements. Often in Africa in particular, things pop up where I need an Army force within weeks. And now I have that force. I can turn to the RAF, and they have a pool of soldiers that are trained and available. And once I get all the approvals from the country team and the and AFRICOM and the Army headquarters in the States, I can get them over and do a mission. An example, in Malawi asked for help because they're going to the Congo, and it's starting to heat up there. They wanted some military mentors, and within 5 weeks of a request, I'll have soldiers from 2-1 CAF going over there to do that mission.
So you're using them quite a bit.
I am, across the continent, from exercises in Ghana to training a battalion in Niger, getting ready to go to the UN mission in Mali, in Uganda we're fielding a new piece of light armored vehicle for the Ugandan military. And here in this exercise here we have we have 700 soldiers involved, and about more than half are coming from the brigade.
You're here as both the commander of U.S. Army Africa, but you're also here as a commander of troops. It's kind of a delicate balance. We see this here at Shared Accord. How do you manage?
I seek to balance training benefits for both the African partners and our own soldiers coming to the continent. It's very important that our soldiers get as much or more training out of these events than the Africans do. It's generally easy to do because the training we're doing here is very exciting. It's different terrain. We're working as a coalition. They're getting to work with their South African partners, or the brigade headquarters case, they're working for a South African general. A great experience in coalition warfare, something that we always say we're going to do, and here's an opportunity to train to that task.
How are the budget cuts affecting you?
When I took this job, General Odierno told me to generate requirements for the RAF. And I was able to report back to him that I did not have to do that. There are plenty of existing requirements with authorities and funding in place that, since I had the RAF available to fill them, I was able to go and volunteer for those missions. So we are getting missions from the Department of State, peacekeeping and related missions, or exercises that I'm using the RAF to do that come with the necessary authorities and funding.
We're in South Africa for exercise Shared Accord. What's the significance of this exercise?
It's very important for both South Africa and for the United States. South Africa is very involved with peacekeeping operations throughout the continent. And this is an opportunity for them to practice their skills running like a brigade or division level combined headquarters. They're doing that with the brigade talk, and also to fight as a combined force at the company and battalion level, even lower at the platoon level. That's a rare task because it's difficult to get foreign partners actually trained with. It's always better to do that in South Africa or the United States than it is to do it in a place like the Congo. So it's very important for the South Africans. It allows them to enhance their skills as peacekeepers because they're active across the continent. And valuable for us because our soldiers are getting experience on different terrain. The weather here is different. It's very nice, but it's very, very different than Kansas. And I think we are also working with the South Africans. We're learning how they do peacekeeping operations, something we don't do normally. So it's good to get their perspectives on how they do it, and if we ever get the task, how we can do it better as well.
This year we've seen where some of your training events are actually reflecting real-world missions, like recently in Ghana. They had troops going to the UN mission. Is this a template that you'd like to incorporate into more of your training events?
Whenever possible, we tailor our training to meet the needs of our partner. And recently, our partners have required us to train them for the mission in Mali. So our exercises, our CPXs, our training has been focused on fighting the type of threat that they would face from the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb affiliated enemy that's there. And here in South Africa, they're doing peacekeeping operations, also in dangerous places like Darfur and the Congo. So we're helping them develop scenarios that reflect that those scenarios in that they will potentially be fighting in on that peacekeeping operation.
In the past, you've spoken about having your training events become more multinational rather than bilateral. Is there reluctance amongst the Africans to become more multinational?
It depends on the type of exercise you're talking about. We do command post exercises and we do tabletop exercises. Those tend to be multilateral, multinational, because the problems we're trying to solve are regional in these particular type events. Whereas a field training exercise like we see here in South Africa, this is normally that country's big event for the year, and they seek to get as much benefit out of that as possible. So they tend to be a little more reluctant to bring in outsiders because it detracts from their ability to get trained.
Africa has the potential for instability.
Yes.
How does this impact your training events?
Generally speaking, we work with the country team, with the ambassador, and if the situation in a particular country is not such that we can go and do an exercise or do a medical exchange or something, we work with the country team and we adjust it. We don't tend to cancel events. Normally the situation will come back in a situation that will allow us to go back in there, and when it does, we will go back. Because it is important that we do these exercises that both the country team wants and the partner army.
Are there still trust issues here in Africa with the U.S. military?
Trust is not an issue, but it's something that has to be earned. And I think we are earning that trust right now by doing things like what we're doing in Niger. We are living with the Niger Infantry Battalion, 850 men, 24/7 for about 10 weeks. We're not coming and going. We show that we trust them, we live with them, and that we're there for them. And they tell us they respect us for that. So we have to do more engagements like that, and then we have to do follow-on engagements. So if we do an event, we work, develop a capacity. When we come back to make sure they still have that capacity 6 months, a year later, that shows that we're invested in them, and that'll build the trust that you were talking about.
Do you see a time when we would have an African squad or a company come to the United States and train on our training sites?
Yes, we have a plan for doing that. For follow-on regional line forces that they train in places like Fort Riley. It's hard to get a sense for what it's like to train with an African unit without having an African unit there. So we have plans to bring squads up to companies to train with the follow-on forces at the National Training Center. So they'll be ready when they come and actually do the mission in Africa.
Bottom line, why are we here?
The real purpose for why we're here is to protect America, Americans, and American interests. In the year I've been in command, 7 Americans have been killed, 4 in Libya and 3 in Algeria. And so there is a threat. Al-Qaeda is present here in Africa. If we are successful, we can help Africans solve African problems by enabling them and building the capacity in them to take on the threats that they face. Because if they don't, those threats can evolve and affect us either directly, like we talked about, those loss of those American lives, or through Europe, or eventually by attacking the homeland itself.
When you share this with the Africans, how do they respond?
They understand that. They would do the same, and they know that by building their capacity, we're helping them defeat a common enemy in most cases. So they're very helpful and very thankful for what we provide them.
Are all Africans willing to work with us?
Yes, this fiscal year, U.S. Army Africa is involved in every country in Africa, except for the 4 we're not allowed to go into. We have something going on in every country in Africa, so it's 50 countries.
If you had a wish list, what would top that list?
Things that would help me to enable my African partners better so that I can be more effective at helping them solve their own problems. And one of the ways we talked about earlier was enabling them with intelligence. That takes a lot of intelligence agreements. It takes a lot of work to ensure that our intelligence is respected and used properly. And that's one of the areas I'm working on through our State Department and our intelligence community, to allow me to share intelligence so we can develop an understanding of the network and help the Africans defeat the threats before they become significant in a threat to the United States.